Hello, and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 231 at scavengerlife.com.
It is very cold in our house because we've not started our fire yet. It's not quite cold enough to get everything cranking. So
you can hear the shuffle of my vest.
So we're in our sweaters right now.
In our hats.
Okay, welcome. We hope you're photographing and listening and packing like we always like to say. It makes us feel like we're helping you be productive. That's good for us.
You being productive helps us be productive.
Yep. And if you've chosen to sell on eBay as a profession, then you found the right people, because that's what we do. We sell on eBay full time.
Yes.
We have a big announcement.
Yeah, what do we do on Monday?
You're so silly.
Why do you say that?
So, everyone knows that we have a rental, that we used our eBay profits to buy a rental property.
And fix it up.
And
start a new business.
And this past Monday, we bought a second rental property.
Yes, we bought another house to turn into a rental.
Yep. It is not quite in such bad it won't be quite a big of a job to redo as our other one.
Right.
So we hope to have it rented in the next 6 months by summertime.
Yes.
But we're not going to go into detail here. We have another podcast called shampooandbooze.com, and if you're interested in how we're trying to build a rental business, that's where we talk about it. And we kind of talk about it in great detail our process over the past 6 months or so of buying this place.
Right, and talking about, what we need to do to fix it up and, what are our thoughts behind, why we're doing it and how we're going to do it. So we did just record that podcast, and I'll have that uploaded and published before this podcast goes out. So it will be available for you guys to listen to if you're interested in that.
But net to you as an eBay person.
Yes.
The reason why it's interesting maybe to you, but it's interesting to us, is that, eBay is important to this other business because we're using our eBay money to invest in this other business.
Yes.
That other business would not be possible if we weren't making a living on eBay.
Right.
And making a profit. And we live cheap, so we have extra money, and then we use this extra money to buy and fix these places.
Right, and especially in the winter when our farmhouse rental really is not going. I mean, there are a few scattered days here and there, but we're really depending on eBay to, jumpstart this other one to get going.
Yeah,
so
December, January, February are the slow times for us because no one really comes out to where we live to go on its vacation.
In the cold months, yeah.
We do have some people coming out.
Yeah,
so
for holidays.
It's not a zero
right.
profit, but it's not a whole lot of money. So we really are going to be depending on eBay.
Yeah.
And that's what we did when we redid our other property was that, we redid that completely on eBay money.
Yeah, that's the only income.
So we've kind of signed up for a little bit of stress because it is always a little bit stressful trying to juggle these things.
Yeah, but we know how it goes. That's the other thing that's fun about it is that you can kind of, have these ideas and make them happen. Like the farmhouse is done, so it's for people who are gluttons for punishment. Having another house to redo and find furniture and find appliances and stuff, it's fun. I say?
Yeah, I think just we're the kind of people where I don't know. I just don't like to do something just to do it, just to feel like I've got to do it. I like to give myself challenges, and that's really what this is. We aren't really content on just selling a bunch of stuff on eBay and being done.
Right.
We wanted to how can we use the cool stuff we're doing on eBay? We're making a living plus. What do we do with the extra cash? We don't want to buy fancy cars for ourselves or buy fancy clothes.
Let's buy houses.
How can we do something where we're investing in kind of our future?
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is it's not like we're just buying houses for fun. We're buying houses for businesses. Yep. So that is a huge part of it. Yeah. And we enjoy it. I enjoy running the rental. So if I didn't enjoy it, we would not be buying a second rental.
Right. So, I know people who are listening to this are all different levels, Like some people are just starting out. Some people have been selling since 1995.
Yeah.
Everyone is at a different place, and everyone does different stuff. Some people are just like they've always just done this part time. They sell on eBay part time. They make a little extra money to help pay bills. They save up and go on a big vacation.
Right.
They use it to pay their mortgage.
Everybody does different stuff.
And and I guess we're interested in the people who are using their eBay business to maybe do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's interesting to us too.
Yeah.
There is, this kind of reminds me of, so I will link to it on the blog at scavengerlife.com. There is a great post on Mr. Money a Mustache, a blog that we like.
Yeah.
Where, he talks about how he, deals with his money. And it's a kind of a guest post by this man in his 60s.
Yeah.
And he talked about his career. He talked about his life. And he says that even at an early age, he always had a nest egg. Like he always had extra cash.
Right. He saved money.
And he said that because of the extra cash, it allowed him to do things that he couldn't have done before. He chose to always work jobs rather than be independent. But having that its nest egg allowed him to negotiate with his boss. So he talked about when he was younger, he always wanted to, go on a 6-week trip,
Yeah.
And so he was able to go to his boss and say, I want to go on this trip. And his boss was like, no. And he's like, all right, I'll quit. Because he has money.
He had money,
And
yeah.
then his boss was like, wait. Let's not quit.
Yeah.
We'll let you go.
Yeah.
No problem. Just come back.
That's
but he
interesting.
wouldn't have been able to have that at the negotiation
Right.
if he didn't have, and he calls it FU money.
Yeah, it's FU money.
This is a family podcast, so we can't say
we can't swear, but you guys get what we're saying.
And it reminds me of, like, for us, we still do a video work. It's our career,
Yeah.
that we chose to not do full time.
Right.
But, we have people come to us and ask us to do these kind of jobs.
Right.
And, recently we had someone come and ask us to do it's his job in the summertime. And because we have these other businesses and some
some
money,
leverage, yeah.
We could actually negotiate.
Yeah.
What a luxury that I was able to say, well, tell me about the job.
Tell me more before I say yes.
Yeah, like what kind of job is it, and
yeah.
we can talk about money and all that stuff. And she knows because she's dealt it with us that we are not hungry for this kind of work if it's not something that's enjoyable.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah.
And that's great for us. So she she comes back to us and sells the job and stuff like that. And that's really great.
Back in 2007, 2008, I never thought we'd be in that position.
Right.
I hoped that we would be in that position. I didn't think it would be because I'd be selling old clothes on eBay that I could be in that position.
We talked about it. That's one reason why we really started to sell on eBay and really get into it was because, there was a time when we had to take everything. That fell on our plate.
And it was awful.
Like my job was to actually I'd always be emailing, calling people, asking if anyone had any kind of work.
Yeah,
and we started doing jobs where we really didn't like them.
Really bad jobs.
Weren't really being treated well.
No, there were some people that were horrible.
Paid very well. And we just saw that was our future.
And I even started applying for real editing jobs, like the type where I would have to rent a room in the city. Like, it got bad,
Yeah. So, eBay was the beginning of our being able to, to negotiate on the kind of way we spend our time.
Yeah.
And that's how we see now taking our eBay money and investing in these rental businesses is that it gives us even more leverage.
Right.
And
well, something you said to this person who asked us if we could do this job in the summer, you even said, hey, we just bought a second house. She knows we do a rental because we talked to her about it. And it's like, look, we just bought another house for another rental. So we're going here. So, which is a good thing to say in a way, because she's like, okay, they're busy. So if they're going to take the time to do this, it has to be something that's interesting and not like a boring corporate,
and
something.
it's like this guy's blog post, he's now in his 60s and he's actually starting to retire. The way he talks about it is when your employer or when a boss or someone who wants to hire you, when he sees or she sees that they can't get you
right
immediately,
right,
it means they want you even more. So it's
sometimes.
kind of
yeah.
So that's why, I hope that those people who are working jobs, if you need any kind of motivation, check out that blog post because it's a good one. It's true.
Definitely. Okay, this is a fascinating subject we're about to move on to.
Okay. Next up, it's my pantry / a freezer challenge.
Okay, this is your whole thing.
This is me.
And you know what? I'm going along with it because I am eating stuff out of the pantry.
So we've talked about this, how, over the past couple of years, we've done a really good job scavenging food.
Yes.
Where we've been finding really good food for really cheap, going to
grocery
outlets, and so we've stocked up, and then I started realizing, we have so much food that we aren't really eating because we keep buying more.
Right.
Let's just eat on what we have.
You know Jay's phrase, eat on it. So
the past couple months, and probably for the next couple months, we're eating on our supplies that we've been buying.
Yes.
And so far, it's this month, it's just the beginning of the month, we went to Walmart, and I think you spent $26.
Yeah, I mean...
What would you buy? Some lettuce?
Some of the stuff that you have to get is, the fresh stuff to add to these things. If I make soup and a veggie burger, I want a salad. So I bought lettuce. Something that adds to beans and rice greatly, obviously, is salsa, and I've treated us to sour cream.
Yeah.
I only say that because we were and are counting calories, so sour cream can be tough. But even just a tablespoon is glorious. Yeah. So,
but we have a lot of things. We have veggie burgers.
Oh my God, we have so many veggie burgers.
I bought 100 packages.
They were so cheap.
It's 4 packs. They were 30 cents each, and anyone that buys and eats
veggie
burgers knows that they're $4 for a package of these things.
Yeah, they're really.
We have lots of cans of soup.
Yeah, I've been eating soup a lot.
So instead of buying bread, because we bought a lot of flour.
Yes.
I bought a big bag, a 25-pound bag of flour, so I've been making biscuits instead of bread.
I love the biscuits.
So every couple days, I make a big old thing of fresh biscuits.
It's so good.
And we eat that instead of bread.
Yeah.
And then we have kale in our garden.
Yeah.
It's cold, but it's still cranking out.
Kale stays good until the deep freeze. So
people are probably wondering what does this have to do with eBay? This just has to do with our scavenger life.
Yeah.
And I'll just end it with one thing I've done is I've been making hash.
Yeah, not hashish.
Hash. And I guess that's my probably going back to my English roots.
Yeah.
My family's English roots. So basically where it's just potatoes and onions and then anything that is left over in the fridge and you just fry it all up. And basically what I call it is superfood. It's future superfood that I would never cook for anybody else, but it's so delicious.
I ate some of it the other day, but the problem is, Jay has this tendency to just, really put a lot of cheese and stuff.
Yeah, cheese it up.
There is so much cheese. I'm all I'm eating is cheese. I don't mind fried potatoes, certainly, but a little too much cheese.
Yeah.
I would eat it if there was not as much cheese, because fried potatoes and onions with kale in it, that's fine with me.
But, it's something that... It's what people in the future will eat, when there are spaceships that go to different galaxies, and it takes generations.
So they're going to eat...
This is the kind of food that they're going to eat.
They're going to make potatoes in space.
Yep.
How do you grow potatoes in space?
Let's get back to eBay.
Let's get back to eBay here.
So something I've noticed on eBay is what's called the false positive.
Yes.
And this is when we'll go out and scavenge and we'll find some item and we're this is weird. It's a super weird item. We put it up on eBay and it sells.
Right away, in 5 minutes.
And I'm wow, let's keep buying that item. So we go out and we start buying this item and then we put them up and they don't sell at all.
Yeah.
And it's what I call the false positive, because it just means that one time it sold was a totally random
one person was looking for that literally just one person. They found it and they bought it.
And now they don't sell it all. And
Yeah.
so every so often we have those kind of items.
Sometimes, yeah, items like that.
Yeah.
But you can learn pretty quickly. You put it on sale, you make it cheaper, whatever, and you get rid of it.
Or
and don't
just-
buy it again.
Yeah, or don't buy it again. Like,
Buy it again.
like one of them for us is those fondue forks.
Oh my god, number one, I find fondue forks everywhere all the time. I don't know why.
And we'll buy them, and then every once in a while they'll sell. Like we sold some recently.
I sold several recently, yeah.
But they don't really sell fast enough for us to buy as many as we're able to buy.
And then we always see them, we're like, yeah, these sell really well. And we're like, oh wait, they only sell really well sometimes, you know? Like, I probably won't buy those ever again.
Or it's Cork trays in my mind.
I love Cork trays.
Do people know what those are? They're like this black kind of like plastic.
Like a resin
and
tray.
then back, I guess, in the
It's like 50s. Okay, stop.
70s.
I'm going to explain it. You're butchering this. Okay, so there is a brand called Cork, Couroc, Cork, of Monterey, California. And they would make these black resin trays with an inlay, like a wooden or brass, just different kinds of inlay.
And, it'd be like a woodpecker or a
Just
hummingbird.
different. Actually, there are actually thousands of designs. So look it up. There's a million of them on eBay. I think they're super cute. I find them all the time at thrift stores and at estate sales because people collected them and gave them as gifts and whatever. And I've actually given them as gifts, like housewarming gifts, because I think they're really cute. But they don't sell for a lot of money. I think the highest I've ever sold one for was like $30 max. So yeah, it's like you think they're so cool in mid-century and you're like, oh, like these sell sometimes, I have a stack of them over there because I really like them. I think they're so cool.
I feel like it's one of those things where if I was a different kind of person, I would start hoarding them, buy every single one I could and just store them away, because I feel like at some point
they're gonna be big.
They're gonna get popular because they are very cool.
They're very
cool
because
they're handmade. I guess.
Yeah, they're like
inlaid,
hand done.
And they're collectible in the sense of like, I feel like in the future it's going to feed into people's need to like, well, I need the hummingbird, I need the little fox, I need the little,
I need the thing,
because there's so many different
I would
kinds.
think I would think that would be happening now. That's what I don't understand is like, I don't understand why they're not popular.
I mean, because I think all it takes is there's going to be some blogger or
an article,
Martha Stewart or someone's going to like talk about it, and people that didn't know they existed are going to be like, hey, I want those, and then suddenly there's going to be
like
a rush on the market,
Yeah, it's like Beanie Babies,
or the hey, what's her name? The Holm, like Catherine Holm.
Oh, Catherine Holm.
She's got those bowls, and
it's not a she; it's a company.
A
Catherine Holm is the company.
Those bowls were at one point pretty cheap to find, and now
you can't. I mean, like if you get a Catherine Holm like Lotus bowl, you're in the money.
Right.
Or a kettle. Those are popular too.
This is just kind of a random thing this week. I'm at the end of our death piles.
Oh my God!
One thing I found was at the bottom of this bin we had was all this old silverware.
Yeah, flatware, not actual silverware.
Flatware, and it was a vintage airline flatware that we had found a couple of years ago when we went to go visit your grandma in Florida.
Yeah,
we went to like a Goodwill, and I remember you were going through the knives and forks and stuff and started finding all this old...
It was so fun because they cost like 10 cents each or something. And I found all this like, 1960s United Airlines, like stainless, flatware and like Lufthansa. Just really like actual whole sets of them. So that's going to be a lot of stuff to photograph, but they're definitely cool.
But I mean, that's why they went in the death pile, because it is like, it's not
so many pieces.
Not really whole sets. It's like here's 4 knives and here's like 3 forks.
But the United Airlines ones were quite a few. It was like 20 pieces or something.
True. But for the most part, it's like
I think what's cool about those is the fact that they used to give you stainless silverware to use on an airplane. Probably only first class.
Do that now? like on the
Do they? No, it's plastic.
like in first class.
Well, I don't know because I've
Okay.
never been in first class,
Right.
so I could peek over next time.
That's right.
But yeah, I think maybe in first class they do.
Yeah, and we're not really sure how well they'll sell, but
I don't know, but
We'll
I
find
think
out.
I think they're cool. So hopefully other people will think they're cool too.
something else it's noticed because I had not been paying attention that
Yeah.
you have almost caught up on all of our folders of
Yeah.
stuff I've taken pictures of.
Yeah.
You've listed almost everything I've taken pictures of.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grab the camera from you for like a few days, so I didn't have any of those photos. But you were like, how many folders are left? I'm like, none. You know, there was one folder of artwork, which I have to put on actual auction, so I avoided that. But that was funny because I was like, yeah, I'm done with everything.
And that's because there was someone on the blog, and I hope someone will tell me who it was,
Yeah.
who said, why do a template? And they were like, forget
Right.
a template. And once we dropped doing the template, our listing has
It's
gone
so
so
much
fast.
faster.
I mean, I never thought that you would be able to keep up with my
I never
photos.
ever thought that we would catch up. But we did. And that's great because that means everything that's photographed and put away is listed on the internet to be sold. There's no backlog. There's no like 30 folders to be listed. No, it's all ready to go.
Yep. And then just to kind of, before we get into our numbers here, our week was really great for the first half.
Yeah.
Like, we really started doing well, and then, like, by the time, like, Thursday came around, it really started getting quiet.
Yeah,
you know?
it was really slow.
But, at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, our average was good,
Yeah.
so I'm happy with that. But, and then it's Sunday today, so this doesn't count for the numbers I'm about to
Yeah.
share. We've started to sell again, so...
Yeah, there
You
was
know.
some stuff overnight.
But, I saw some people on the blog, like, kind of talking to each other about how it's been slow, and, I don't know what to tell people.
I mean, it
happens,
sucks because you're like, this is the time when it's not supposed to be slow. So,
Yeah.
when it is slow, it's a little bit scary.
There's never any guarantee. of
I mean,
anything.
that's all you can say. That's the problem. Like, someone on the comments was like, how do you know which days are going to be slow and like what? I'm like, you don't know. That's the whole thing about selling online. You never know when.
And that's why we do the listed and it's forget it for the most part, just because, even with auctions, you're trying to kind of gamble about like when someone's going to buy,
I
like
hate
what time
that.
period. And for us, it's just like, don't fight that. Like, just
Yeah.
get it up there. And when someone does a search, hopefully our thing will pop up.
Right.
Okay, so our numbers for the week. In our flagship store.
Don't ever say flagship again. This is so annoying.
In store number 1.
Yes, there you go.
Our original store.
Yes.
We sold 37 items for $1,500.
Wow, 37. That seems
Yeah.
high.
It was a lot of little small
A lot of little things. I have a lot. I mean, I know that I always am like, putting stuff on sale doesn't work. I have a lot of stuff on sale right now, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
Because I want to move some old stuff. I really do. So you're seeing those things, that are on sale.
So here's an example of us breaking our own rules.
We always break our own rules. We will be like, we don't believe in this, and then we'll try it. We'll be like, oh, it was okay. That's just how you have to do business, So that's what I'm saying. Why are you looking at me weird? Like,
I feel like you're having to like make excuses.
you're like this. Is that it? Okay, can we move on? Okay, so that's interesting. 37 items. Average price sold $40.
Yeah.
Well, there are some high price items that sold. That's why.
And then you listed 61 items in that store.
Wow.
So that's good.
That's good. Does that include auctions?
Yep, everything.
Okay, that's everything.
And then in our second store, it's kind of our experimental store, but it's getting bigger. We now have almost 800 items in that store. So it's almost becoming like a full-time store by itself.
Yeah.
We sold 16 items for about $500.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good. See, I like that number. 16 is great.
And in that store, it is more not always, but it's more kind of low dollar items.
Yeah.
So our average price was about $30 in that
Still
store.
a good average price.
And that's where a lot of our piles of death
have gone listed.
have gone
Yes,
into.
exactly.
So if you look at it overall, we made about $2,000.
Whew, that's
week,
not bad.
Which is almost up to $2,100, and that's at an average of $300
Okay.
a day. So
Yeah.
even though the week at the end was quiet, overall it all worked out. So.
Average out. Okay, so some of the things that we sold in our first store, our highest item sold was a vintage blanket from the USS United States. It is an old cruise ship, right? It was a cruise ship?
Yep.
And it was a crew blanket, a wool crew blanket. And I had it up for $600 because I just thought it was really unique. I couldn't find any other one like it online.
And real quick, it sold for $250.
And sold for $250, best offer to some designer in New York.
But when we listed it, we didn't know a lot about it so much, and then there are people out there that buy this kind of stuff, and we started getting emails saying that we had really overpriced it.
It's not worth $50.
Because I guess right now the ship itself is, I want to say it's in New York Harbor, and it's about to be scrapped. And there's there's a group of people that are trying to save it, and they want to dock it and turn it into a hotel or into offices. But I doubt that will happen. But I guess before it got to that point, about 10 years ago, they did a big auction, and
I think it was like 20 years ago. Or
20.
Something.
Well,
yeah.
They did a big auction, and sold off like all these blankets and all the stuff inside of it. So people were emailing us, telling us that blankets like this weren't worth much because people had bought so many of them, and there were a lot on the market. But we thought it looked cool because it's got that like.
It's got the logo.
Emblem.
It was beautiful. It was a crew blanket, so it wasn't as like fancy as like a blanket in a room.
But it took about 12 months.
Yeah.
And we didn't make $600, but we made
$200. I mean, that's a lot more than $50.
$250.
We made $250.
And so we paid $10 for it. So
yeah.
That is one of the things where our buy and hold made sense.
Yeah. So I was really
because
happy.
if we tried to sell it quickly, we would have sold it, if we were lucky, $50.
$50. So the highest item that sold in our second store was a set. It was actually in quantity. I had quantity 3 of these 2 terabyte hard drives that are internal hard drives for like a RAID drive or the inside of a desktop computer. Now I had used them in a RAID drive for all you nerds out there. I won't go into explaining what it is
because of the work we do.
Because of the video work we do. So I wanted to upgrade to bigger drives. I wanted 5 terabyte drives. And the great thing about a RAID system is you can just pull them out and put in a new drive, and it like reformats it and everything. So what I did was I pulled those drives out. I bought an enclosure for like $10, reformatted them, made sure they were good to go, and then I sold them for $50 each. So there were 3 of them. One guy bought all 3 for $150. I love that. I wiped it. All my data is gone.
I mean, that's such a scavenger thing where if you buy something, you use it for yourself, and then when you're done with that item, or when you upgrade, then you resell it. And we probably made, I bet we paid about $100 each for them.
Right.
So we didn't make all of them.
But I used them for like 4 years.
Yeah, so it's good.
I mean, so what? And the great thing is that $150 paid for one of my new 5 terabyte drives. So that that helps. Recoup the cost of upgrading. So something else we sold, which is a pain in my butt because I have to ship this thing. It was a Duraflame electric heater. It's like a fake fireplace. It's got the fake fireplace up top and then an electric heater on the bottom. We originally bought it for the farmhouse rental, mostly for decoration because we didn't have an electric plug near the fireplace. So we kind of stuck it in there and no one could really use it. So we didn't really like that because people were like, oh, can we use it? And we're like, no. I think we bought it for like $20 to $30 at a thrift store, and then I sold it for a best offer of $75. Plus, I think he lives in New York, so it's like $25, ground shipping to get to there. But it's kind of big. So today we're going into the big town next to ours, and I have to look for like a big box to ship it in. So.
And we went to the thrift store the other week, and we got a big bag of old blankets
to wrap.
For $1, so
yeah,
we used the blankets for wrapping.
Yeah, so I'm using those to pad it out and stuff. So, but the good, it's a pain to ship, but I'm glad we got it out and we made money on it too. So it's like we doubled our money on it, and someone's gonna be able to use it. So that's always my my goal with stuff like that. So another good seller this week were these little soffit vents. It's like the most random piece of hardware, but we were at this junky auction a few months ago. It might have even been a year ago. And they had an entire table of just stuff, and I wanted one thing on the table, but they were like, okay, entire table, let's start at $1. So I got the entire table worth of stuff for $1.
Yep. And just real quick, this is when it pays to hang out at an auction towards the end.
It was at the end.
I know people get tired at auctions and it can become a long day, but that's why it's good to stay till the end, because we were there at the end and everyone had left or
nobody
they
cared.
Had already bought what they wanted, and they're just trying to get rid of everything. And that's
so there was there was a sink, like a glass sink that I wanted, and I was like, I'll pay $1 for that. But there was a box of these soffit vents. They're packs of 6. They're little aluminum vents that you put in your soffits, which is part of your house, if you don't know.
It's the overhang of the roof, and there are vents along there so air can
flow, so it doesn't like get moisture in there and just like rot.
But it turns out that these vents that we have are hard to find for some reason, the size.
They're either hard to find or people want to order them online, and they're hard to find online. And I don't know.
And they're brand new in the bags, and we've been selling them for $12.99 each. And
for a pack of 6.
And we had 17 packs of these things.
So one guy asked for combined shipping, and I was like, yeah, just I'll give you a discount on shipping because he's in Pennsylvania, so it's close. And so he bought $65 worth. He bought 5 packs of 6.
And we've already sold most of the other ones over the past 6 months. So really, we're going to make over $200 just on those. By themselves.
We didn't even mean to buy them. We kind of bought them by accident.
And I think this it's a good example of like, we don't just sell purposely old weird stuff. That's a lot of what we sell. But we aren't doing that really on purpose. I mean, the reason why we do that is we're selling what we can find cheap.
Right.
And very often when we go to thrift stores and stuff like that, like, we can find these weird old items because no one wants them because they aren't, like, obviously valuable to most people. We find them and then we sell them to the people online, to the people that know they're valuable.
Right.
So, and we do that because we can get it cheap. But we do buy stuff like this, too. I mean, these were new items, hardware items.
Yeah.
I'll buy electronics. I mean, anything I can find cheap. It's just normally not very easy to find this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that was just, basically we bought them by mistake. It was just a dusty box of hardware, and we were like, I don't know what these are. So you brought them home and looked at them, and you're like, oh.
Right.
This is what they are.
I mean, it kind of makes me laugh. There was a commenter the other week that was like, I want to have half my store be only items that sell for a lot of money and that they sell fast.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're like, me too.
I'm like, that's awesome. I mean, it's good he has a goal.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's kind of what we all want, right?
Yeah.
And so I asked him, like, what kind of items he thinks it would be, and he said, well, electronics or like meters, and I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but
you got to find those.
But things. Where do you find expensive electronics for cheap that are going to sell fast? I mean,
for a lot of money.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like that equation, like he's building an equation for himself, but that X factor is, okay, how do I find like a bunch of iPhones that I can sell for a lot fast,
that all work and aren't broken,
and that I can buy them really cheap?
Right.
I mean, like, that's the problem.
Like everyone's trying to do that.
And so, I think if you find stuff that will sell that fast for high, normally that X means you have to pay a lot of money
Right,
for
because there's competition.
So your profit is actually going to be very slim.
Well, that's why, I mean, we have learned and are still learning to be diverse, because we found this, essentially this box was free. And we were like, that's interesting. Let's go for it, you know? You just have to be like, I mean, and we talk about this too, you have to be interested in what you're selling. And the good thing is, we redo houses, so we know that there are guys out there that look for this stuff. You know, they're redoing the soffits and they need the new vents, and good to go.
And you know, and it's my point is like the equation that works for us is finding stuff for cheap. Because if you can't find stuff for cheap, then you have to work really hard to make enough money to sell it really as low as profit.
Right.
I think that's why, you know, a lot of people that sell on eBay are selling clothes.
Yeah.
Because you can buy clothes relatively cheap.
They're abundant. You can find them everywhere.
Always abundant, and you can sell, you know, clothes and jackets and shoes for quite a bit of money if you're willing to sort through and, you know, all that stuff. And the same thing for us with, like, you know, the weird old stuff. Like, you know, normally it's pretty cheap. Like, I mean, again, it's not a joke. Like, when we go to thrift stores, we're looking to buy stuff for under $5.
Yeah.
You know, and most times we're trying to find stuff for $1 or $2.
Yeah,
like, that's kind of our thing, and we'll only go above that if we know we can really make a lot of money,
or we think we can make a lot of money. So here's another example of, this is kind of like the hard drives. I sold these Motorola, they're called Talkabouts. I think they're Talkabouts, something like that. These little, like, walkie-talkies. And we used them for a video job where I didn't think that they would have, like, walkie-talkie radios at the venue. The problem was that this was a job in Australia. So I had a converter for the plug, but I didn't have a voltage converter. So I just plugged it in and it just burnt out the adapter. So me being a nerd, I found a equivalent adapter, chopped it up, you know, chopped the burnt out one, rewired it, and it fixed the charger. But I realized we didn't need them again. So they sat in my closet for about 2 years, and then I decided, I'm just going to put these back up on eBay. I bought them for $20 total on eBay, including shipping. And I sold them for $30 plus shipping. So we used them, I repaired it, and then I sold it for more. So that's kind of a cool example.
Bad, Ryan.
Yeah, recycling.
And then something else we sold, and I've heard other scavengers do this too. So we sell artwork. We sold a vintage embroidery.
I think it's a needlepoint, to be technical.
And it was on our wall, actually, at our rental, so it's like there as art. But we still had it on eBay, and we were like, well, let's just put a really high price on it. And we did, and someone bought it for $75.
Well, I think we did best offer. I think I had $120 on it, and I was like, if someone gives me a good offer up near that, I mean, 75 was a lot more than I originally had it priced at.
So it was kind of like, pay us to take it down. And she did, and so we took it down, so now we have to find another piece of artwork to put up there. But I've heard other scavengers, like I think Linda Shields does this, where she puts artwork up in her home, and it just stays up there as kind of storage and enjoyment until it gets bought, and then she'll actually...
I never thought to do that. I think that's kind of smart in a way. So another big thing that I had to ship that I used those blankets for from the thrift store was this hunting stand, this deer hunting stand.
It's a tree stand.
A tree
for
stand.
Guys that know.
I look at it and I'm like, I have no idea what this thing is. But the funny thing was, we had it from last year. We took photos of it and put it in storage. I never listed it, and Jay was like, why isn't that listed? Is it listed?
Because, you know, it's deer season. Yeah, it's deer season.
And I couldn't find the photos to list it anywhere. So we brought it back home, took photos of it, and you said, let's just put it on auction, because this has to sell in the next week.
Right, I mean, and so this is an example of, like, we're willing to do auctions, because basically we want to dump it. I mean...
I want it gone.
I was like, either we're going to sell this thing, or I'm just going to donate it, because it's not like one of the newer... super cool tree stands. Ryan says it's vintage. It's just old, kind of
old.
like, it's a simple
Yeah.
one. And so I was like, some guy just might want to buy this, so he just puts it up in the tree and just leaves it there.
Yeah, it just stays there.
So he doesn't have to keep taking it down. And we put it on auction, and it sold for $80.
I did starting bid of $79.99, and
I can't believe it.
And someone bid on it, and they were willing to pay. I think because the thing was large and heavy, they paid $46 to ship it.
Holy moly!
Yeah, to Mississippi.
Wow.
Ground to Mississippi was that much because it was like 45 inches long plus whatever plus
steel and wood. I mean,
yeah, so it was big. I was able to pack it and send it FedEx ground, but it actually did cost that much to ship it.
Really?
So I did have a handling charge, so it did come out to the amount I needed it to. But I was a little bit scared. I was like, oh god, is this going to be way too big to ship? But it's on its way down there.
And then the last thing we'll talk about, kind of a cool sale. We sold these like little tools.
They're like I think they're leather working tools, but I'm not 100% sure that that's what they were. That's what they looked like to me.
But we sold them for $200.
Yeah.
This is an example of I saw them in the glass case.
Yeah.
When you're at a thrift store and they have the glass case and they think all this stuff is expensive. I saw these tools. There were a set of 12, I think.
Yeah.
And it was $10 for the case. And I bought it.
And I priced it high because leather working tools are expensive, and they were like, the weird thing is I could not find that brand. It was called Roto, Roto. I could find no evidence that they made leather working tools. So
or any kind of tools,
anything. So hopefully this guy is cool with it. But
that's a good example of like finding a weird old thing. It's like, here's this thing. It's weird. It's old. I mean, who wants this thing?
Somebody wanted it.
And we made paid 10 and sold it for 200.
Right.
Like, where are you going to get that kind of profit?
Right. Okay. Customer issues. So we had a couple returns. The first return, this lady said that it was not described properly. It was these two books, these two like weird 70s like Dutch fairy tale books. And she said that the books were stained on the outside, which we had shown in the description and etc. But this is one of those $20 items that I'm like, I am not getting a negative feedback for this. Like, I'm just giving her money back. I tried to fight it. I offered a partial refund through the returns case, but the next day she had already shipped them back. So I called eBay. I'm like, what do I do? And they said, ask her to respond to the case. Like, if you're willing to give her a full refund, just ask her to respond to it, and she'll probably deny the partial refund, which she did. And I said, okay, if you respond to this, I can give you either a partial refund or a full refund, whatever. So she denied it, and then I was able to go in through the returns case and issue her a full refund, which was actually great because I was like, let's just get this over with.
But I've noticed recently on our blog that either some new people are showing up or maybe people are just being more vocal about it. People are at returning items.
Yeah.
And people in the blog are getting upset because they don't think it's fair because it's not as described, or they're opening up the package.
Right.
And, I hear you, because like when this happened, we had about a 20-minute conversation about this, and at the end of the day, it's just we have to remind ourselves, it's like, we're selling stuff. This is one thing. We're gonna lose like $3 or $4 on it or something, and just give the refund.
Right.
It stinks. Whatever. Just move on.
I mean, it helps that was only a $20 item.
Right.
If it were more than that, obviously there'd be like other conversations that needed to be had.
But even at the end of the day, I mean, if a buyer wants to force its return, it's most likely going to happen. I mean, it's always worth calling eBay to see, but in many cases they're just going to say like, you got to take it.
Basically, I hate to do this because I did want to fight it, but I'm like, I just don't want negative feedback over this stupid $20 thing.
Right.
Like, I just want this over with. Make the buyer happy. Happy holidays. Sorry for the inconvenience. She's happy. No negative feedback.
And then we got another is returned a bottle of perfume. And a woman said she tried it. She just realized she didn't like it. She mailed it back. We had a 20%.
Yep.
It's restocking fee, and it's done. You know.
And she paid for shipping both ways. So, you know, obviously those are the returns I love because there's no skin off my back. But it does kind of suck to be like, oh, I gotta try to resell this again.
Okay, customer issue number 3, and this is an issue where
You're the customer. Yeah.
So. You know, we buy things on eBay.
Yeah.
And I bought 4 belt buckles.
Yeah.
On auction for 99 cents.
Right.
You know, it's one of these sellers that's willing to put stuff up for cheap.
Yeah.
You know, they start auctions at 99 cents. I'm the only person that bids on it, and so it's a woman because of her username.
Yeah.
She sold them to me for 99 cents.
Right.
And so when I check out, I look at the shipping cost. And she's basically trying to say that these belt buckles are 4 pounds.
Yes.
That because, that was the price that it looked like shipping to me was going
She was charging like $8. She was in the next state over, and she was charging like $8 to ship them.
Right. I mean, 4 little belt buckles,
yeah.
And we have them here, and I know how much they weigh. They weigh like a quarter pound each.
Right.
So it couldn't,
a few ounces.
It couldn't be more than
a pound.
More than a little over a pound. I mean, I'll give her 2 pounds.
Right.
Anyway, so I asked her, can she do better on the shipping?
Right.
And what she said was, you bought it for 99 cents. Why are you fighting me on the shipping?
Yeah.
And then I wrote her kind of a...
You got mad.
Yeah, I got upset.
Because that's not the way to respond to a buyer.
But I didn't just respond in an angry way. It's responded with the truth, which is, I know I bought it for 99 cents.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have anything to do with what you're charging me
for shipping.
Ship it.
Yeah.
And I said, I know that as a seller, you get a discount.
Right.
So you should be able to keep whatever postage discount that you get. Like, that's the bonus. Right. No problem. But what you can't do is to say it's 4 pounds when it's only a pound. Like, that's dishonest.
Yeah.
And what she answered to me was, well, you bought it and knowing that this was how much it's going to cost to ship. So that's your fault.
She basically got into a fight with you.
And you know what? In some ways, she's right.
Yeah.
But really, though, it makes me upset when buyers lie about how much things weigh.
Yeah.
Sorry, when a seller will lie about how much things weigh. I mean, again, I know it might be a little controversial about the shipping discount that people get.
Yeah, sure.
We think we're allowed to keep that because it's your bonus.
And it helps with your fees and all that.
But I don't think it's good to think just because you're selling stuff for 99 cents, you can then make the profit up by telling people it weighs more than it actually does. It's different if you want to put a large handling cost on it that's not attached to how much it weighs. It's weird, but that's your choice.
Right.
But
for such a small item... that you're like just going to throw in like a little padded envelope and go. I mean, I think part of the issue too for us is I'm always willing to work with people. If they're like, hey, this shipping someone wrote to me yesterday, this shipping seems high. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to double check that. I'm going to go in, check their zip code area, make sure and do the calculations on USPS and on eBay. And I had to write back and be like, this thing's really heavy, and you're kind of far away from me. So yeah, it is going to be that much.
Right.
She wasn't willing to work with us. And what ended up happening was...
Wait, so are we still talking about the person that you just talked about?
No, we're talking about this lady now.
And so a woman that sold me the belt buckles for 99 cents.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I just said, just go by your conscience.
Yeah.
If you think that you're charging me $8 to send me a 1 pound thing, that's on you.
Yeah, she did not like that.
And so what she did was she canceled the sale.
Yep. So we were not... The funny thing was, I was willing to pay. I was like, do you want me to just pay for these? Because I'm ready to pay for them after your argument. But she wouldn't let us buy them.
Yeah. And so, and that's the thing. She set herself up that, if you cancel a sale, the person can leave you
I can still
negative
leave feedback, yeah.
And, I thought about it. And I was like, I'm not going to,
We haven't left her any feedback.
I'm not going to leave her bad feedback. It's like,
See, it's funny that you feel that way after getting in an argument, because I'm like, after canceling a sale...
I don't want to start a fight.
You already did start a fight,
but
though.
No. I mean, starting a fight is like when you want to go to battle. I was just trying to... It's negotiate. It's with a person.
Yeah.
But then it's when I see a seller or buyer doesn't want to, like, talk about, like, truth and logic, then you're in, like, crazy territory.
Yeah.
And so then I don't want to deal with that. And so, to me, that's also an example of just, like, that's what happens when you're a seller and you're selling stuff on auctions for 99 cents. Like, you then start to come up with this like, weird... justification. Well, like, I'm selling stuff so cheap, so I'm just going to make all my money by overcharging
she basically said, in a way, look, you bought it for 99 cents. I have to make money somehow, and it's on shipping.
Right.
And for us, we're like, what you should do is price it properly.
Right. Those two things are not attached to each other.
Right, exactly.
And that's why when people complain that eBay takes a final value fee on the shipping cost, this is exactly why.
This is why.
Because there are sellers that are willing to sell things super dirt cheap and then try and make money up on the shipping, and they would also do that to get out of doing the final value fee.
Right.
So anyway, that's quite a rant, but there you go.
News.
Okay, just a couple of things we want to talk about. We posted last week an interview with Resale a Rabbit.
Yes, I finally edited that. Yes.
So if you haven't heard that, go check it out. It's good. He's a young guy that basically, he's kind of a Amazon hobo. He travels around. He lives from place to place and travels and buys stuff along the way and mails it out as he travels along into the FBA warehouse.
I think he doesn't realize how cool it is what he's doing. Like, he acts so nonchalant about it. I'm like...
Because I think it's just normal for him because I don't think he's really experienced long periods of bad jobs. So he just, he's had freedom from the get-go.
Right.
And that's good.
On.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And so... he seems to make a lot of money, too.
Yes, crazy. So go listen to that interview if you haven't.
Something that Ryan found, we're going to link to it on the blog at scavengerlife.com.
Yes.
It's a list of open courses, like free courses.
From universities, Yeah, so I thought it was cool. Someone tweeted this list of like all these different free courses, whether they're on iTunes or they're on YouTube or they're on just a university's website.
And these are college courses like MIT,
UC Berkeley,
Yale,
all these places all around the world. Some of the courses are even like from a long time ago. One of them was from like 1968, which I thought was fascinating.
So if it's like us, when you're doing eBay stuff, we like to either play podcasts or listen to the radio.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes run out of things to listen to, but there's thousands of these courses, and you can go through and...
Yeah, it was cool. Although I will say that you really have to go and like try some out, because some of them I was like, this is either way over my head, I have no idea what they're talking about, or really boring. So you have to just kind of like jump in and jump out and find the ones that are interesting to you.
Something else I just wanted to link to for people who homeschool kids. There's a thing called Khan Academy. It's khanacademy.org.
Yeah.
Khan. And if you're trying to teach your kids math or science, that's the site to go to.
Cool.
It's totally free. It's like a nonprofit, and it's a really cool website where there are courses where they teach kids, or I guess adults, concepts of science and algebra and trigonometry, and it's very interactive.
Wow, that's neat.
It's super cool. And then the last thing on this little news section here, there's another new tool from flippertools.com.
Josh at flippertools.com.
It's free. Yeah, he's kind of part of the group here.
Yeah.
He doesn't comment a lot on the blog, but I know he follows along, and here's what people are looking for. And it sounds like he's just kind of like a coder in his spare time and builds stuff.
Builds tools online.
He's probably a professional coder.
Yeah.
But he just, in his spare time, makes little things for eBay. So he updated his tool that helps you figure out the cheapest way to ship an item.
Right. It's called Fit Shipper. And you can put in information about your package and just see like the different prices. Because when you're listing on eBay gives you this like big drop down. Like, what are you going to choose for your shipping? And a lot of people get overwhelmed by that. Like, what should I choose? What's the best shipping for this item for my customers? So the Flipper tools, the Fit Shipper, is kind of a cool tool to just type in the information and just see what the best option is.
So we've talked about this before. Can you tell me the thing that he updated?
Yeah, so he changed it so that you don't have to put a zip code in, which is really helpful because you don't know who your customer is going to be. So he shows all the different zones. And so zones vary based on where you're located, but it's going to give you just at least a good rundown of, the basic prices for things.
So check it out.
So you should try it, yeah.
Thanks, Josh. Okay, things we learned in the comments this past week.
Yes.
Brooches are back in style.
It sounds silly, but there are a lot of people who do costume jewelry and look for jewelry, and I've sold a lot of brooches over the years. People put them on jackets or hats or, whatever. A lot of times, what I've done with brooches is made them into necklaces.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different things you can do with them.
A Flim, who's from New York, talked about,
yes,
it's getting popular there because people have, a winter coats and funky clothes, and a brooch is cool to pin on because it just adds some.
And like a lot of people will do like vintage, like kind of grandma brooches, and I've seen people do like several brooches together. So that's kind of fun.
So brooch it up, everybody.
Brooch it up, bro.
And actually, there's a guy named Bill Cunningham.
Yes.
He worked for the New York Times.
He's a photographer.
And he must be in his 80s now.
Yeah.
But since the 70s, he's a street photographer, and he goes out every day or every week, and he's like snapping photos of just street clothes.
It's fashion. He's a fashion photographer.
Right. And so basically, what he does is, and he has a column every week. And if you Google his name, I'll put a link to it on our blog. He finds the patterns of new things that people are coming up with, and this is on the street
in New York.
And I think it's kind of cool for those of us who sell on eBay because he helps. As you see, people are really into these weird scarves. That's becoming a thing. Before it even gets into
mainstream.
Mainstream.
It's on the streets of New York first. Or Paris or wherever he is.
Right. It's New York,
yeah. Yeah, but he travels. He travels for shows and stuff. So.
And there's actually a documentary about him.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
This is interesting. And then the last thing on these, this came up because, and I forgot who it was, there's someone that came onto the blog and he said he's been buying these big bags of bulk costume jewelry. Yeah. And that's how we got into the idea of
brooches, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he'll go through the costume jewelry and, start sorting it, what seems, precious metal and what's, costume jewelry and what's junk that you can... Not junk, but, stuff that you can sell in a big lot.
Some of it is junk, but,
yeah, but some of it you can sell for, play jewelry.
But, we talked about this before. At auctions... Sometimes they do auctions of big bags of just this.
People go nuts over that stuff,
and I'd be like, "Why is someone paying $50 or $100 for a bag of just plastic?"
Well, junk? It looks like plastic junk, but you'll find gold.
Now I know why. Yeah.
You'll find sterling. If you have a gem tester, there are things that look like glass, but they're actually sapphires.
And also, people. even if it's just plastic. Jewelry.
Some people buy that. Bakelite is worth a lot of money. Yep. Lucite, etc., etc.
Cool. The next thing that someone talked about that I thought was interesting was Deb. It's mentioned this idea of grind growth gold.
Yes.
And she used that to talk about its process of selling on eBay.
Yeah.
That, you know, starting off on eBay, it really is kind of a grind,
yeah.
you know, because you're working really hard, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to solve all these problems, you're trying to learn all this stuff, you're putting stuff up, you know, if you have 200 items, you really aren't making a lot of cash. It feels like a grind. And then you grow and you finally figure out, okay, here's how I build my pipeline, and the pipeline's built. Now I'm listing, you're growing. And then the third stage is gold, where you're actually starting to make a lot
money,
of cash.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that was a good way to think about, you know, starting an eBay business. So if you're new and you're hearing this, you know, unfortunately, that's kind of just the way it is, you know.
I think that's true for any business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the analogy for any business that you're starting from scratch, essentially.
Yeah. And then the other thing was, you know, we were having this conversation on the blog about the no at return fantasy, you know. There are people that, I guess, you know,
Lots of people.
They've been selling on eBay since the early 90s, and things were so much different then. There was like money orders.
People sent cash in the mail.
Right. You know, and like sellers could leave buyers bad feedback, and and I guess it was a time when a seller felt good because they had a lot of power, you know?
Yeah.
And eBay has taken away a lot of power from a seller.
Right.
Know? And where it is true, most of the rules are more towards the buyer.
Right.
And it's really just because we've talked about, because, you know, online buying is so competitive now that you cannot have a site where a buyer feels afraid to buy something.
Nervous to buy.
Like either they don't want to get into a war with a seller, or they don't want to get something they don't like.
Right.
And so think there are people who think if they put on their eBay a listing that they don't take its return, then that covers them. And then they get angry when eBay forces its return, and then if you fight it, eBay just pulls the money out of your account and gives it to the buyer. And it makes some sellers just furious.
Yeah.
And that's why I say the idea that you can have no its returns is a complete fantasy.
Yeah, you have to take returns.
The only way it might work is that if you sell things as broken or for parts.
And that's it.
And I think that's the only time eBay might back you up, because you're basically telling the person,
this is broken.
It just doesn't even work. Like, if you want to buy it, go for it. But I'm not taking it back because it does not work. So they can't say that
it doesn't work.
But the problem is that if you sell things in that way, you aren't going to get a lot of money. That's
just the reality of online selling now. Right. You're either going to have to give money back and not get the item back, or you're going to have them send it back and take a return. Like, that's just the truth. So Jason on the blog was having an issue about an address that eBay didn't like. The eBay label maker page was telling him it was an invalid address. So, you know, what do you do when that happens? When you contact your buyer and say, what is your correct address? And they never write back to you. Or clearly they thought the address they gave you was a correct address, because why would they think otherwise? So I actually asked him to send me the address, because I have a couple ways that I, can look. And what I did was, number one, I put the address into Google Maps. And Google Maps reformatted the address because it was a highway. They lived on, a big road / rural highway. So a lot of times those roads are abbreviated differently in the post office world. The other thing I noticed is the buyer actually spelled the name of their town wrong. So either they just moved there or they have no idea where they live. So I actually went into USPS and started to make a click and ship label with their address, and USPS automatically recognized the zip code and the road and reformatted it for the post office to understand. So I didn't actually print or pay for a label. I just started the process and pressed, continue, and it reformatted it. And so I sent him an email and was like, I think this is the one that'll work. Like, your buyer clearly does not check their email, so they're not going to get back to you.
How often does it happen?
It's not very often. It's very rare, actually. It's good to contact your buyer, because you don't want to change something and have them be like, you changed it wrong, it never got to me, But if they're not responding and you're able to go into USPS and like properly format it, then you should be fine.
Okay, our upcoming week is simply, we're just on that march. I'm still getting through old stuff, but now I'm almost getting into the bins where it's like ties and scarves and things like that.
That's the end of it.
Yeah, so, that's really, we're getting to, so it's great, It's really nice, we're back, we aren't traveling. When we can spend our full time on eBay, it's just amazing how much we get done.
The fact that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you've, caught up with all the photographs I've taken, which I almost have. That's what happens when you're just like, that's what I'm doing during the day,
And like, actually, even after this podcast, I just want to work on it a little bit. We have an office where, and it's got a bunch of stuff in it. I want to start cleaning.
Yeah, the office is still, like, that's the thing is, like, piles happen, and they're there so long that you, like, don't see them anymore.
Right.
You get used to them, which is not good. And
I see them.
Yeah, that's the problem. Jay sees them, and then he keeps bringing them up.
So
it's annoying. But
and also, this past week, I interviewed Martin from Garbage Finds.
Yes.
We've interviewed him before, but it's been a year and a half, and so he kind of updates us on some of the stuff he's been doing. And then I also did an interview with Dan and Elisa from New Vintage New York.
Yeah.
And Dan had come on our blog, and he said some very controversial things.
Yeah, very controversial in this world.
About how he pays people to photograph in a list for him, and he pays per a listing, and he doesn't put a measurement on his listing. He does clothes.
That was the controversial thing. He does not do measurements.
But they're a very cool couple, a younger couple, and they got a good business, and what they do works for them. And I don't know, it makes me feel like, wow, no measurements. It's
I get people asking about measurements. Like this morning, someone wrote to me and asked for measurements for a tape dispenser. What, like, we have to have measurements on things for our stuff, So,
yeah.
And we had measurements on it, but not the right measurements.
Right. But he would just argue that anyone that does that, he just like, I just won't answer it.
That's true. I'll ignore that person.
We do have our rental property. It's mentioned that you can listen to, we did an interview with Anna.
Now, Anna comments on our blog a bunch.
So she sells on eBay, and she also has a rental as well. So it was interesting talking to her about how she runs her second business.
Yeah.
And it is a winter time. If you've ever thought about coming and staying in our area,
yes,
now would be a good time. Like, I'm talking to a guy right now that wants to come out with his girlfriend, and they want to stay 3 or 4 nights. And like, he actually says, I just want to come in a list.
And relax.
She's a writer, so she'll be writing. I'm like, that's perfect. So we've actually discounted our rates, and we'll even give you a better discount if you want to come out.
Yeah, so winter is a great time to come stay. First of all, it's beautiful in our area, no matter what time of year.
And there's still a lot to do, and the weather during the daytime is still in the 60s, so if you're into hiking, it's still not the deep winter time yet.
So anyway. Winter is a great time to rent because there are lots of open days. Like, when the summer comes, it's just, we're booked.
Okay, so let's take the questions, or we'll play it's questions that people have called in.
Yes, you can always call us at 540-407-8486. You have 3 minutes to leave a question or a comment.
Hey guys, it's Bo and Polly down in North Carolina. Called a couple times with some questions and enjoyed your answers. So here, riddle us this one. So you go from an inventory of, say, 500 items to an inventory of 1,500 items in a year, and your sales go up maybe 10 or 20%, and your inventory is essentially the same stuff. You're just getting more of it. What's your take on why or how that can happen? Seems to us that it would stand to reason that if you simply keep acquiring the same inventory and more of it, the percentage of that inventory that sells should remain fairly constant. maybe go down a little bit just because of the volume that you're getting, but it doesn't make much sense to us to be selling slightly more than we were when we had 1/3 of the inventory that we currently do. So the conspiracy theories are starting to fly around our heads as to, why this might be the case. So would love to hear your input and kind of ideas, theories as to why this could take place. Love the podcast. Talk to you again soon. Bye.
Okay, so I appreciate that this person is asking this question. Just like it's a logical question.
Yes.
We've asked this too. Why is it when you have 1,000 items you're making a certain amount, and then when you get to 2,000 or 3,000, your sales aren't exponentially growing? I guess my thing is you have to ask, or I ask it to myself, do I spend my time trying to figure out why?
Yeah.
Or do I just accept the reality as it is and try and work from there? And my thing is, I'm just trying to deal with its reality and just make my choices from there.
Right.
So I think it's crazy to think that eBay would be building these complicated algorithms, pushing things down because they think you're making too much money. That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's like you said, if you're just selling all clothes, just the more clothes you have, then just, there's a glut on the market, and so fewer things sell.
Right.
But anyway, the reality is that's just how it is for us. So we did something we opened up a second store,
Yeah, to see if, you have parallel stores, will you make, twice as much money or 1.5% more money?
I don't know. So now we have 2 stores and we're making money on both stores.
Right.
And, whether that's good or bad, it's just it's reality, and that seems to work for us.
Yeah.
And so I think that just might be something we could do. And if we have a second store get to 2,000 items, maybe we'll open up a third store.
Right.
I mean, I don't think there's a limit to how many stores you can open.
No, right? I don't think so. Again, I get why conspiracy theories are bouncing around your heads. It happens when eBay gets slow, when you don't sell something for an entire day or 2 days. You're like, something's wrong.
The only thing I can think of, the only algorithm I think of that might be at work is once you start getting to, 2,000 items, it means that you probably have a lot of items that have been there for a while.
Right.
And maybe there's an algorithm where stores that have a lot of old inventory, it pushes down the search ranking some. I don't know.
But it's so hard to say that because old stuff that I have sells all the time. They're not hot sellers, but so it's hard to make that.
But as we say, instead of trying to, I just see people they seem to get angry at eBay, blaming them for a lack of sales, and instead of doing that, just play the game,
right,
know? So if you can try and work it out, just work it out.
Hey Jay and Ryan, I had a question about uploading tracking when you're printing shipping labels to eBay. I never have to do that. I heard Ryan mention it in the last podcast, and on eBay Radio they mentioned if you do that you can qualify for a prize of some kind. And I print all my posters through the eBay interface, and in Selling Manager, it looks like the tracking is there. I don't know if the buyer sees the exact same thing as I do or not. But is that you only have to upload the tracking if you go outside the eBay interface? Is that how that works for you? Thanks.
Okay, when I say upload tracking, I basically mean print a label through eBay. I don't actually mean after you've printed the label, you have to do something else. I think I'm just using that phrase interchangeably with print a label off eBay.
Because that automatically uploads.
Automatically eBay's oh, you printed a label? Here's the tracking associated with that item. So
that way you, the buyer, and eBay can all keep track of where the item is.
Yeah. So there's nothing special or different about printing a label versus uploaded tracking.
Now, if you print a label for a FedEx, it's the same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
If you print it through eBay, if for some reason you've had to go to the post office and do it, manually, you need to go home and type that in so that people know, it's been shipped. This is the tracking.
But like I know there are still people that do their packages by hand.
Yep, I get them all the time when I buy stuff on eBay.
Where they write it out, they go to the post office, they pay. Those people have to upload
tracking.
Well, they don't have to.
They should.
But they should.
I mean, they've paid for that to be tracked, so.
Hi guys, how's it going? I just started listening to you guys. Great show. I appreciate all the input. I had more of a comment. I noticed that you guys talk a lot about when you make an offer and someone doesn't pay. What do you think about this? Let's say you had an item up for $50, was making an offer, and someone offered you $30. Well, instead of automatically accepting that offer, how about just sending a message like, hey, I will accept your offer of $30 in this example, but you have to pay today. That's the only way I will accept it. So are you willing to pay today? And then leave it open-ended just like that. And then see if they respond. If they don't respond, then they were probably a flake and they weren't going to buy it anyway, or going to be a late payer. Or if they do respond, hopefully they keep that in their mind that they have to pay today in order to get that price. So, like I said, it's not really a question. Just wanted to know what you guys thought about that, and if you could kind of give your opinion and go from there. Great show. Keep up the good work, and take care.
So that's an interesting concept. However, what if you say, okay, I'll take this offer if you pay today. And they say, okay, great. You accept the offer and they don't pay till tomorrow. Like, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't hold up their end of the offer. So I guess you could cancel it, but then you get a defect, like it just, to me, it's like they're going to pay or they're not going to pay. Whether you take the offer, whether you say that or not.
And there was a thread on the blog this past week where people were like, well, what I do is if someone has under its 50 feedback, I won't accept that offer. Or, I think those of us that have been selling eBay for a while know that there's no way to...
It's random.
Predict.
Yeah.
And we just accept all offers that are good.
Yep.
If they don't pay, you just start the non-payment thing. Sometimes they pay from that, and if they don't, it's just the way it is.
I've had people with 0 feedback pay right away, and I've had people with 1,000 feedback never pay and never say anything to me. You don't know.
I just think there are people that are doing offers or buying through auctions when they don't have the money.
Right.
And they think they're going to get this check, and then the check comes, but they have other bills.
Yeah, you never know.
And they just make these choices, I just won't pay for this thing I just bought on eBay. And unfortunately, they don't talk to you about it.
Right.
I don't know. But for us, it's better just to sell stuff and hope they pay than try and figure out beforehand. Are you one of those people that's not going to pay?
You only have 50 feedback. It's like, there's not enough time in the day for you to do that.
I also find, too, that the things you sell can attract more non-payers than not. I find, anytime we sell electronics. Or, phones.
Yep.
Those are where you're just getting a kind of person that seems to not pay so well.
Yeah.
We know a guy who has his camera up, this really nice digital camera.
Yeah.
What kind of camera?
Canon. It's a Canon 5D or whatever.
Yeah, it's the Mark V or whatever.
Yeah.
He keeps putting it on auction. He's on the 3rd try now.
He sold it 3 times, and I'm like, we keep seeing it listed, and we're like, oh, no one's paying for it.
Right.
Because
I guess people end up paying more than they want to pay, and then they think about it, they're like, oh, I don't know.
It's just, there's certain items that attract those people.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. This is Meredith. I've written to you a couple times. I'm the one who painted my house while listening to your podcast. I was listening to 191 today, and I wanted to give your listeners a tip on what I do for when I'm trying to find my items. I have about 400 items, And as it got bigger, I started, when I would look for something, the anxiety would build. Like, did I lose it? What am I going to tell the customer? So what I ended up doing was getting a dry eraser board, or actually a couple of dry eraser boards, and having bin 1 has this. And it wasn't the whole title, it was just enough so that I knew what was in there. And then I would go all the way through as I was listing and putting things away. And then when I needed to pull an item, I could look at the board and say, okay, which one is it in? And be able to erase it, since it was dry eraser, and put something else in the bin knowing that there was a spot for it. So that has really helped me, and I hope it can help your listeners, because I really enjoy your podcast and think it's great. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, that is a very cool idea to keep track of stuff. We're having an issue where we're up over almost, with 2 stores combined, almost 5,000 items.
Yeah, I think when we got to about 3,500 items, I started feeling like I was losing a little bit of control over where our stuff is, because we have them in multiple places. We just have them in bins by type, and then, no one type is starting to fit in one bin. So we're actually probably in the next, 4 months going to redo our inventory system. And I think we're going to go to what other people have said. We're going to go to a numbering system where things are going to be numbered in a numbered bin, and that will be in a note on each item.
So that we know exactly what bin every single item is, no matter what type of item it is.
Yeah. But, it's good that everyone thinks about this, because once you start to grow more than about 100 items, you cannot just keep things in just like a pile. You've got to start having some kind of
organization
of a system.
Yes.
But the good thing is we can find most everything. We did this past week, we sold a couple of magazines, these old magazines, and we just could not find it for anything, and Ryan actually found it in an unlisted
box
pile
of books that had not been photographed, that had not been listed. They are not supposed to be in there, but they were. But I had a hunch, and I found them.
But that was a very rare thing.
That's incredibly rare.
Hi, Jay and Ryan. My name is Laura. I live in Tennessee. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I do eBay part-time. I have about 100 items in my store. I have 2 young kids. And I just wanted to say first that I love your relationship. Just from the interaction I hear on your podcast, it's so sweet. I just love the way y'all love each other. It's sweet to see. Also, for everything you do, I really appreciate it. I've been really open to new ideas that you've been presenting to me, because I'm just basically in the clothes and shoes selling bracket. But every once in a while, I'll come across, like this month, it's dolls. My aunt had a bunch of dolls that she handed down to me to sell, and it's been very lucrative. So you guys have really made me excited to branch out because of the variety of things that you sell. So thanks for all you do. Just really wanted to give you a shout out and tell you thanks. Bye.
I think you guys just get a sugar part of our relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that I edit out, the arguments, because I do.
But I think good, healthy fighting is a good thing for any. You
guys don't hear any of that, because it would not be fun to hear that.
But yes, it is also good to just, especially if you're new, to just be willing to try different things, and also, like we always say, start finding things that interest you. So that's good.
Yeah, you just gotta be open to stuff and try stuff, and that's the great thing about eBay. You can just try stuff whenever you feel like it.
And plus, the one thing I really still love about eBay, and I guess Etsy too, but you can sell anything on eBay. I guess you can sell a lot of stuff on Etsy, but it's mainly a vintage stuff. But eBay, you can sell almost anything.
Yeah, I mean, within legal reasons.
As long as it's not counterfeit or like a body part or something.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Diane. I live in New Jersey, and I just started eBay around April. I was just listening to your podcast, 228, and the lady said that she had sold something, but it didn't come off, and I don't have proof of, a link or anything. That's why I'm just calling in. It did happen to me, too. It happened to me twice, and I called up, and I asked them what the problem was. I had sold this item, and I happened to notice it was a pack of dominoes. And the dominoes were still there for sale, and I asked them what the problem was, and they didn't say anything about 70% of the people that happening to, but they didn't understand what was going on either. I said I had just sold it, and it's still for sale. So I took it down myself, but I called up to let them know that there was a problem somehow. I just wanted to let you know that it is happening. I haven't had that problem since, not that I've noticed anyway. I have like 400 and some items in my store, so I might not notice. But I know it did happen that one time, and I don't know if the problem's still going on. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much. I have learned so much from you guys. And I just sold the best thing that I've ever sold was one of those atomic planners, 1950s. I sold it for $175, which is the best thing I ever sold. And I bought it for $18. And that's because of the research and stuff that you tell us to do. So thank you so much for everything. And have a great Christmas. Bye.
Okay, so yeah, we got one of these phone calls a week or two ago, where, something sells and the item doesn't automatically get taken off and then someone can buy it again even though you don't have it. And there's some rumor that like 70% of people have this problem. I don't know. We haven't had that problem on eBay. And I guess, most of us probably only sell under 10 things a day. So I guess if you're really worried about it, anytime something sells, just do a search.
Check, yeah.
And if it's there, take it down. I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know the right answer here.
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I guess you just hope that eBay must know about it, and if it is a problem, they're going to fix it. But that's, again, why I ask people to, if you have a link... I mean, something like this, I'm sure, is being talked about somewhere. And if it's really affecting 70% of people that sell on eBay, I mean, that would be tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
You would think there would be some kind of announcement on eBay about it. And that's just why it's good to link to that stuff, because if not, it's just a rumor.
Right.
I have no evidence either way. And so now I'm just a person on the internet just talking,
Right. As we are every week.
Yeah.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Ryan. This is Dave from the Detroit area in Michigan. I don't have a question, just a quick story. It just happened, so I thought of you guys. I buy on eBay as well as sell. I'm a top-rated power seller, and I collect sample license plates, and have purchased about 30 of them or so. And I got one in the mail, and it was and so I've gotten lots of them in the mail, and they always have like cardboard. They're usually packed in a flat rate envelope, legal size envelope, or a padded mailer, and they always have thick cardboard protecting them. And I got one in the mail that was just on a poly mailer, and the guy had wrote "do not bend" on it, but it's just stuck in a poly mailer, and of course it's bent at almost a 45-degree angle. So I see it, and right away I take pictures of it because I have a great camera, a great photo setup, of course, and I take a dozen pictures of it, 6 before I opened it, 6 after. And I contacted the man about it and said, how do you want to proceed? And he basically just said I was out of luck. He said it's the post office's fault. Myself, I would have immediately accepted responsibility for the fact that I should have protected it more. And I explained, well, it is the post office that bent it, but it's up to you, too, as a seller, to properly package your items. And he got snide and accused me of having it being a different plate. Like I have multiple sample plates from Florida that say sample on them. I'm going to pull a scam for $25 as a power seller. And he got real snotty real quick about it. So I immediately left him negative feedback and opened up a return case on eBay. And I'm sure I'll end up getting my money back on it. But I just wanted to share the story. It's got me a little worked up about it. And it is only $25. But to be treated like that and to be called I even asked him, "Are you calling me a liar?" And to be treated like I was trying to pull some scam for a $25 license plate, it just that's what gives eBay sellers a bad name, and that's why I don't do that. When somebody asks for a refund, normally I just refund right away, unless it's a very expensive item, and I've only gotten a few refunds since I've been selling. So some returns, but not as many refunds. So anyways, I thought I'd pass that story along of how quickly you can get a negative feedback, and as a customer, as a buyer, how it feels to be questioned and had the insinuation that you're a liar or trying to pull a scam. So love you guys' show, and have a nice holiday. Bye.
Okay, so that is a good example of a bad seller, that they, first of all, didn't pack the item right and it got bent in the mail to you, and then they got really defensive that it's your fault or you're lying that it got bent. I mean, it's just, those are the kinds of people that give eBay a really bad name, those kinds of sellers. So hopefully you're going to go through the process and get your money back or figure it out through eBay. And then, since you're a seller, you should block that person just in case. And remember not to be a seller like that. Don't get in fights with your buyers. It's just not worth it.
But this is an example of, we all sell on eBay, but I'm sure many of us buy stuff either on eBay or other places. I mean, this is when I'm glad that sites are pro-buyer.
Right.
Because when you do deal with a seller that's not being honest or that's not living up to its responsibility, I'm glad that I don't have to fight that person. I can just tell the website, and the website, either Amazon or eBay, they'll side it with me and make it a good process.
Yeah, so hopefully that's what's going to happen with you. I think it will. You should call us back and tell us what happened, or leave a note, a comment on the blog, because I would love to hear what happened.
All right, that's it for this week. Everything we talk about, like all the links and little items we talk about, can be found at scavengerlife.com. You can also join the conversation there as well if you want to chime in.
And if you have a question or a comment, you can call us on the voicemail line. The phone number is 540-407-8486.
So we post an episode every Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on our schedule. On Wednesdays, we normally post our What Sells videos. So you can actually see some of these items we talk about that we've sold. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube. And also, we just bought a rental property. If you're interested in that process, we talk about it pretty extensively over at shampooandbooze.com.
Yes, our other podcast. Okay, this podcast is ending in 3, 2, 1.
Bye.